Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Aurora, Colorado public hearing. We'll get started shortly, just giving some more people time to Zoom in. So. It's too dark.
Recorded, unmute, and
Okay, well, it's about 5 after, so we'll go ahead and get started and let others join us as the evening progressed. My name is Michelle Clark Jenkins, and joining me tonight is Trinity Williams, We are with Griffin and Strong. We're a law and public policy consulting firm based in Atlanta, Georgia. So for those of you who may not have been able to join us in previous sessions, we are going to do a quick PowerPoint just to kind of bring you up to date with where we are with the study and even what the study itself is. So bear with me for a minute. Oops. Wrong one. Huh. Can you all see my screen? Trinity, you can see it. I don't know why I was having problems there.
Yes, it's showing.
Okay. So welcome to our City of Aurora, Colorado 2023 Disparity Study public hearing. Again, our firm is Griffin and Strong. We're a law and public policy consulting firm with more than 30 years of experience in doing disparity studies. We do them all over the country. Our team has 5 attorneys, 2 PhD economists, a PhD in social psychology, a PhD in anthropology, and a PhD in public policy, all of them with their rolling up their sleeves to work on this study. Our firm specializes in disparity studies. In fact, it is all that our consulting division does is disparity research. We also are involved in contract compliance, program development, training and supplier diversity, and consulting. As will become important in a minute, no study we have ever conducted has been challenged or overturned in court. So let's start with kind of the basics of what is a disparity study. It's an objective research tool that determines whether there are disparities in the way that governmental agencies perform in their procurement process. Disparity studies are meant to measure race and gender and ethnicity, although it can sometimes be used to measure groups that are, veterans, small businesses, disabled, even though you don't need a disparity study in order to effectuate remedial programs in those areas. These studies measure availability, and I'll talk about that in a second, compared to utilization for these groups. And when we use the term, sometimes you'll hear us use the term discrimination. I want to make sure I put that in context. It is not necessarily an indictment of any particular administration. What it says is over the history, there have been disparities. There have been things that have contributed to current disparities that we're seeing. So when we talk about discrimination, we're talking about the current effects of, it could be past or current discrimination, but that's what we're looking at. We're saying, here's the final effect of everything that has happened to this point. And we do that through statistical analysis and through anecdotal, which you are part of tonight. And we also do a deep dive into the current policies and procedures. When we complete this study, we will present our findings to the city, we'll present our recommendations to the city, and they are intended, if they're accepted, to be implemented as policy. So let's talk about why we do disparity studies. There's a case in 1989, J.A. Croson versus City of Richmond, Virginia. Up until that point, there had been a federal program under the Surface Mass Transportation Act, which gave minority firms a percentage of federal contracting. So what followed was a lot of local and state governments began to follow suit and create these remedial programs based on the fact that everybody kind of knew there had been some societal discrimination. For the first time, the Supreme Court said this runs afoul of the 14th Amendment. And for the first time, they said that if you're attempting to remediate discrimination, malevolent discrimination, it's on the same basis of anything that is benevolent. So in other words, if someone is discriminating against you and then you put a program in effect that remediates that provides preferences to another group, they're considered on the same level under the 14th Amendment. So in order to overcome that, you have to have a couple of things. You have to have a strong basis in evidence. And that's what a disparity study is. In essence, we prove the existence of discrimination through a disparity study. And then anything that you do to remediate the discrimination found must be narrowly tailored to avoid over or under inclusion. And all of our methodology, as I'll explain in a little bit, is dictated by case law. So the courts in Croson kind of told us what we had to do, but didn't really tell us how to do it. So the last 30 years, various court decisions have said, yeah, we like the way this was done. We don't like the way that was done. We don't think this should be part of a disparity study. We think that isn't. But one of the things that came out of it, or the strong thing that came out of it, is you can't just put a program in place that may be based on race and gender without a strong factual predicate. And it cannot be just based on, well, we have X percentage of the population, therefore we should have X percentage of government contracts. So this is really our study process. Disparity studies take at least a year to complete, and this is why. We do a legal analysis. Again, disparity studies are creation of the court, so our methodology is dictated by that. We do a deep dive into the city's policy to see if there's anything on its face that might present barriers to women and minority-owned firms. A lot of the time is spent cleaning and collecting data. We're looking at every payment to suppliers or vendors or contractors that the city has made over the last 5 years. And then we do a relevant market analysis as part of our analysis, which really says, who are you studying? What's the geographic arena? And that is really an analysis in itself, because we look at the economic marketplace as being where the city is spending at least 75% of its dollars. So we start with the city of Aurora, Colorado, and let's say they're spending 30% of their dollars with firms located in Aurora, Colorado. We go out a little further, and then we go out a little further until we get to that 75%, and that becomes what we call the economic marketplace. And that is, then our rest of our analysis is done only based on firms located in that area. So probably the most straightforward part of a disparity study is the utilization analysis. That's who did the city spend money with, both as prime contractors, those who they contracted with directly, and subcontractors, who are the ones that they're contracting, who they contracted with directly, then hire out to do part of the work. We also look at threshold analysis, which is what level of contracting is the city doing. It's doing a bunch of big contracts, a bunch of little contracts. That gives us a lot of information. So then we do the availability analysis, probably one of the most controversial parts of a disparity study. Who are the ready, willing, and able firms who can do the work that the city is looking to be done? And then the disparity analysis compares the two. So if African-American owned firms make up 10% of all of the engineering firms in that relevant market, are they getting 10% of the engineering dollars? We then go further than that to look at whether the disparities that we see, if any, are likely caused by race and gender. So in order to do that, we have to kind of equal out the other reasonable explanations. So if a firm is, we look at firm owners' education, the size of the firm, how many their revenues, the number of employees they have, how long they've been in business, and then you kind of equal all that out. And if after you do that, there's still a disparity, then the courts let us make an inference of discrimination, which again, an inference of discrimination is kind of a term of art. It means that it is the current effects of past discrimination and that it is likely caused by the race and gender of the owner. So what you're part of tonight is one of the most important parts of our study, which is the anecdotal evidence collection. So let's presume that we do see a disparity from the statistical analysis, both from the city's records as well as from looking at the private sector analysis, which, by the way, the private sector analysis is a little misnomer. One of the things we also do is an analysis of the marketplace. So, because remember, the marketplace is a feeder of firms into the city's available firms. So if that's depressed, so if, for example, there are certain times in our history where you would have seen 0 Hispanic American owned engineering firms. And so if the city's using 0, you'd say, well, there are 0 out there, they use 0, no discrimination. Well, you got to look further and say, well, why aren't there any? What's the likelihood of self-employment? We look at building permit data to look at what's happening with the construction industry. We also look at whether there are disparities in credit markets, which, you know, is huge in terms of being self-employed and being able to undertake government contracting. So anecdotal evidence allows us to look further than just the numbers. So when we see a disparity, again, if there is any, how do we fix that? And so we go out to the community itself and say, tell us about your experiences, good, bad, or indifferent, about doing business with the city of Aurora, Colorado. And if you haven't done business, tell us about attempting to do business. And if you haven't even attempted to do business, tell us why not. So this helps us to gain all of the things that we can now recommend to the city in terms of making the procurement process a more open and inclusive process. So this is really, again, I told you it takes about a year to complete a study. We are in the process now of doing anecdotal collection, as well as a survey of business owners, which will be launched. Trinity, do we know when that's launched?
It should be launched sometime this month.
Okay, so and we'll definitely connect you all with a link. Everyone who's on this call, we will send you a link to please fill out that survey. Even though you have attended this meeting, we really want your responses to the survey. So we'll be done about spring of next year with a report back from. So how can you be involved? Well, attending tonight at this public hearing is really helpful. You know, we really do need your feedback. I cannot emphasize how important it is to get your participation, because again, once we see these numbers, we need your guidance on the things that, again, they're doing well, because if the city is doing something well and you want them to continue doing it, we want to know that. If there are places of concern where you've had an experience that you think is needs a process change, tell us about that. You can also send us your comments to the email, which is auroracostudy@gspclaw.com. Trinity has also put it in the chat room. You can send us your comments if you choose for whatever reason not to publicly tell us your comments tonight. Please send us an email to that address. And of course, help us with the survey. You can find out more about our firm at gspclaw.com. We do have a study website at engageaurora.org/disparity study. Trinity has also put that in the chat room. That'll tell you about more detail about who we are, more about the study, more about any events that we have up and coming. So with that, any questions so far before we go into the public hearing?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear
Can you
you.
hear me?
Yes.
Are you a Black or woman-owned firm? Did you hear me?
Yes. Yes. We are both.
Thank you.
Mhm. We're also small. So we're both. Any other questions? So as we move into the public,
Michelle?
yes,
Hi, this is Rosie McDonough with the Hispanic Contractors of Colorado.
Uh-huh.
And thank you so much for doing this session and for keeping us informed on the process and everything. So what I would like to ask, and maybe this is too early in the process, but what are the next steps, within your findings and all the work that you're doing? What are your next steps? And then number two is, are you looking to find local companies to still continue to talk and then see what are their challenges and things, that affect them in contracting, procurement, within the process? Are you still going to do that, or are you done with those?
well, that's what tonight is. So tonight, although I did a little bit of giving out some information, that was just kind of to set the stage. But tonight is a hearing, public hearing, where the point of tonight is to hear your experiences. So that's what we've asked firms to do tonight. And then we have another one tomorrow in the afternoon. And that all goes into our study. So everything you say in this public hearing, although we don't, in our report, we don't name names or anything like that, but in some way, everything you say tonight will be included in our report. In one way or another, either quantified that it's something we heard over and over again, it's somehow quoted. Everything you say to us will get reported in some way. Again, not attributed to you, but will be in some way reported. And so that's kind of where we are in the process. The next steps are we're going to be completing the study. And about this time, late spring of next year, we'll complete the study. We will make our findings and our recommendations to the city, and then the city will take it from there. And hopefully implement whatever it is that we recommend. So tonight is really, so as any other questions before I move forward with the public?
Yes.
Yeah. So I would like to just ask one more question related to that. So basically, Michelle, these two forums are the ones where you are hoping to hear from small businesses, but you're not going to be doing any individual interviews or anything like that?
So we've already done those, we've already completed, we've done we've done a couple of things. We've done individual interviews. We're having these public hearings. The survey, there's a survey of asking firms to fill out the survey, which will go out in the next couple of weeks. And then I think is it in October, Trinity, that we're doing October, November, we'll be doing a series of focus groups.
It'll be November.
We'll be doing some focus groups. So it's individual one-on-one interviews that we see as case studies, public hearings, focus groups, and the surveys. And then also we ask people, if for whatever reason you miss any of that, then please send us your comments by email.
Okay. Is there any chance that I can send you some emails so you can include that in your public survey, or that we can send it out to our membership? Because we know that, construction companies are sometimes way too busy, especially we're closing the summer right now, Michelle, and a lot of my people, work very late nights until, the night kind of falls. And so 7:30 right now, they are still out there working. So is there any other way that I can include them and involve them in this process?
Sure, we're open to any way. On top of that, we will send you directly. We have your email, but again, if you want to put it in the chat room, we'll send you the survey link directly. The survey link will also be available on the website when it's up to do the survey. We also, by the way, have been interviewing organizations, so we're happy to interview your organization as a group. So that can be arranged as well. So yeah, we're open to any way we can hear from the community. So Trinity, would you reach out to, now pronounce your name for me, Rosie?
Rosie McDonough.
McDonough.
Yes.
Okay. So if you'll just reach out to her, we will arrange, if you want, we can arrange a special meeting with your group. We can do an interview specifically with you and your organization. We definitely would like to do that. Okay, Miss
Thank you
Sanford, I
so
thought
much.
that you were also going to say something.
I'm really, I appreciate what Rosie is asking, because I've been at this at the very beginning. You guys know I've been out helping you guys make contact with as many people. I was even talking to people about it today. I even sent this information to a number of people, trying to get information out to the community about this disparity study. And I appreciate you, Michelle and Trinity, for copying me on those people that did respond. But this is kind of going toward what Rosie is saying. I'm a little concerned that there's hardly any participation today. And I was going to ask if you are doing direct public sessions like what Rosie's requesting, if you would go to her organization and do direct. I do know the city and county of Denver, when they did their disparity study, they directly went to all of the chambers and the trade associations. Of course, this was pre-COVID, and I saw better participation when the last disparity study with the city and county of Denver was directly going to the organization like Rosie was recommending. I've been on, I've tried my best to try to get this information out to the community. City of Aurora is the most diverse city in the entire state of Colorado. And I continue to be concerned by the lack of participation in this disparity study. And I am a consultant with the Aurora South Metro Small Business Development Center. You probably know the director, Marcia McGillen. And a lot of my clients are in construction. I consult just on construction, transportation, government sectors. And I know there's companies out there. I just don't know why. And I've seen you guys' advertisement. They've been coming in very frequently. So I know your marketing. I'm just concerned is there some way you could try to maybe do more target market to get more participation in these public hearings?
Yeah, so we have contacted, I don't know, Trinity, how many you have on the list, but we do target directly organizations. We kind of come into an area and, we kind of go after try to go after all of the ethnic chambers. We try to go after all of the national organizations, their local branches. We ask the city, who are the firms, who are the organizations out there we should be targeting. We try to get to any of the trade organizations, even those who we know we're not their favorite organizations. We try to get to all of them. So if there are organizations that you would like us to meet with, yeah, we do meet directly with organizations, have been.
And do a public forum like what Rosie's requesting, which I think is great. Have you been doing a public forum with them? Rosie's requesting you guys do one with HCC.
So yeah, we're happy to do that. What we generally do is invite them all. We contact the organizations and ask them to have their membership turn out to these public hearings. But then we also do offer, like we're offering to her tonight, that if you would like your organization to have its own meeting, we're happy to do that as well.
And she's requesting that. However, the city and county of Denver, I was on the disparity study with the city and county of Denver. And I do remember that consulting group reached out to all of the trade associations and chambers and asked, not waited to be invited, asked if they can come to their organization and do a public forum. And I was wondering if you're doing that kind of target marketing.
Well, we had invited them all to this, and again, what we had done was invite reach out to all the organizations and invite them to this, to ask their membership to come to this forum. But yeah, we're happy to do that as well, which is reach out to them and offer if they would like us to do.
Yeah, and that's my recommendation, just from somebody who's been on these disparity studies over a period of time. These forums that I was on the first one, and they're just not well attended. And I think more direct marketing to the trade associations and the chambers could help out considerably.
Okay, that's a good suggestion. We're happy to do that. We have been reaching out to them. I will tell you that with some of them, even reaching out to ask them for interviews, we've not necessarily gotten a good response. We've been calling them and trying to get in touch with them. So again, any organization that you're aware of that you would like us, that you think we should reach out to, please put it in the chat room and we're happy to reach out to them.
I have a question.
Sure.
Does Aurora have a Black chamber or a Black business chamber?
I'm sorry, ask that again. I didn't understand.
Does Aurora have a Black business chamber?
Yes.
Yes, there's Myra. She's over the African.
The African Chamber of Commerce, and there's also the Aurora NAACP that's doing work with businesses as well. I think with Village Exchange.
So again, any organization that you know about that you think we should be reaching out to, please let us know. We're happy to reach out to them to conduct meetings specifically for them. And we would also like to interview the organization itself.
But I didn't hear the answer. You said that Aurora.
If your question is, do they have an African-American chamber?
Does have a
You're breaking up.
Yeah, you're breaking up a bit.
chamber?
Toby, you're breaking up.
Oh, well, that's okay.
Okay.
I
Why
have
don't
a
you put it-
question.
Why don't you put it in the chat room?
Oh, okay.
Um,
Can you
and-
hear me
and-
now?
Yeah, you're breaking up, Toby. We can't really hear you. So if you can put it in the chat room, whatever your question is.
I said, can you hear me now?
You're coming in and out.
Okay, I'll put it in the chat.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yes, I had one. It looked to me from your timeline like you'd already done most of the statistical analysis, and I was wondering if you could share any of that with us.
So we haven't. We are in the midst. The statistical analysis literally is one of the first things we start. It's one of the last things we finished. So we don't know yet what the statistical analysis will show. And then, of course, it will be part of the study itself. And, there are a lot of moving parts in a disparity study. So even what our findings are, we don't actually establish our findings until we have all the pieces together, because it's not one piece tells the story, it's 5 pieces that come together. Your anecdotal, the statistical, the private sector analysis, it all tells the policy, all hopefully tells a story of what's happening with procurement at the city.
I guess the reason I was asking was that I thought if there was some, what I would call encouragingly good news, that the disparity was showing up, that it might help with the marketing that people are rightly talking about, which is tough. And I believe that they've tried some of the neutral remedies before, for instance, trying to more broadly outreach to some of the underserved communities to do it, and it didn't go anywhere. And so I'm hoping that we can get people to take time out of their day to do that. And if we have any good news on that front, then it would, it'd be helpful.
Yeah, at this point, it's too early in the study to kind of know what the outcomes are yet. But, once we complete our work, we'll put it, it'll be part of our report at the end.
Okay, great, thanks.
But again, can't emphasize enough how much your input helps us to formulate some of our recommendations, which are really formulated by a combination of the anecdotal evidence we collect, our own institutional knowledge. We're not just researchers, we're practitioners. So it's our own institutional knowledge about programs and how they work, as well as a deep dive in the policy, because it's hard to make changes to something that you don't have a complete understanding as to what the city's already doing. So I'm going to move into the public hearing portion of this. And the purpose of this is to really hear your candid testimony about your experiences, both positive and negative, either doing business or attempting to do business with the city of Aurora. If you haven't done business with the city of Aurora, tell us why not. We want to hear about, the bidding process. We want to hear about the communication process, certification, your kinds of experiences you've had. Again, we want to hear about all of it. Everything that's said so a little bit of a disclaimer, everything that's said is being recorded for the public record, but our final report does not publish names, business names, or other affiliations. We do like to talk about the organizations because we do want to encourage the city to partner with organizations at the end. So we will talk about, what we find out kind of from what organizations tell us. We're not soliciting questions anymore. But commentary only, and we won't be responding to questions or commentary other than to try to gain some clarity on anything that you've said to us. When you're providing your comments, please begin with stating your name and your business name clearly for the record. And again, everyone, if you're going a little too long, let everyone have a chance to talk. But if you're going more than 5 minutes, you'll kind of see me interrupt you a little bit so that we give everybody a chance to talk. But really interested in what you all can tell us tonight that will help us as we formulate our findings and recommendations for the city of Aurora. So who would like to go first?
I'll go first.
Great.
My name is Adrienne Sanford. I'm owner of the Sanford Group LLC. And I'm also a certified small business consultant with the Connected Dot program, which is a partnership between CDOT and the 15 SBDC network. And I don't know how many firms I have certified over the last 10 years. And all of those firms I'm certifying are not interested in doing business with the city and county of, with Aurora. They're looking for contracting opportunities with the city and county of Denver, RTD, CDOT, and DIA. And I believe that has a lot to do with the city of Aurora not doing any outreach. Now, over the years, I have only saw 2 outreach efforts from the procurement department with the city of Aurora, which I was attending as a consultant for the Aurora South Metro Small Business Development Center. Those team leaders that were part of the procurement, I had an opportunity to talk to them in person and share with them some of the improvements and changes they can make. However, there were no continuous ongoing outreach into the Aurora small business community, Aurora minority business community. Bottom line, City of Aurora procurement department does no outreach into the community, minority, women community for their projects. My business also based in Aurora. And I'm very active with the Aurora South Metro. And I have monitored this for many, many years. About 15 years ago, I actually contacted the key person with procurement and asked them if they would ever do if they would have a certification program. And they said no, because They couldn't afford the disparity study. So I can honestly say over the years, I have been part of the Aurora minority community, both as a small business and as a consultant with the Aurora South Metro Small Business Development Center. And all of their procurement is you self-certify. When you're responding to RFQs, you just check a box. I'm a woman, I'm a minority, blah, 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 blah. That's it. I think a lot of the problems is there's just no outreach.
All right, thank you. Okay. Next.
So I'm Rosie McDonough. I'm the Executive Director for Hispanic Contractors of Colorado. And I personally don't have the experience I do have a small business, but I haven't had a chance to work with the city of Aurora personally. But I do represent a variety of different companies that work in the construction, architecture, and engineering fields. And some of them are located within the city of Aurora limits. And one of the things that I just, some of the comments that I've received from my membership is, the projects, and this is exactly why we're doing this disparity study, the projects do not have a minimum goal. They don't have any good faith efforts. The contracts don't have a good faith effort that will allow big companies to include MWBEs or DBE companies. And so, since there is no requirement, they just don't have to look for anybody that will fulfill that portion. So I hear them struggling through the process, and some of them are small and medium-sized businesses, so they don't have the capacity to take on contracts that are, millions and millions of dollars. So my suggestion is, a couple of things. Obviously, there's a lot of things that are going to come up with from this disparity study is, to start implementing a goal. That would be fantastic. Something not extremely crazy, don't go to 25 or 30%, but just start with 5 or 10%. Follow up that data, make sure that that you follow the data and see how those companies perform in those contracts, and make sure that you have that data, because some of these companies are going to request to have a bigger percentage of participation in those contracts. Number one. And then number two, to break up the contracts in pieces that are a little bit more digestible for small and medium-sized companies. Some of them may not be able to take on a $10 million contract, but if you break it up into different pieces and provide people the opportunity to demonstrate their performance, I think you will be pleasantly surprised with the performance of some of these minority-owned or women-owned businesses. So those are my two suggestions. And yes, they struggle with the challenge of being a part of or participating in some of these contracts with the city of Aurora.
Okay. Thank you. Next.
I think
Yes.
they got scared after me.
Anyone else? Again, I can't emphasize, happy that you all have joined us tonight, but we really need your input. Whether it's been a good experience, a not so good experience, what's worked well, what do you have concerns about? Again, even if you're not doing business with the city, why aren't you? If you are doing business with them, what was your experience like? If you've attempted, but it didn't work out, tell us what happened there. We want to make process improvements and make recommendations for that to the city. And that's what they're asking us to do. So this is your opportunity to have that input into policymaking.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, now, Toby, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was just wondering, with your study, did your study show what percentage of Black businesses get contracts from the city of Aurora?
So can we save your question until the end? Right now, we're doing, I'm in the process of getting comments on
Yeah,
the,
well, the reason I think you're not getting comments is because there's a bit of a fear factor that if we speak out, there will be ramifications, and we're not doing well as it is. So we don't want to speak out and then be further, I don't know, punished, I guess is the word. And I'm not speaking on anyone's behalf, but my own.
Toby, we're having problems.
But you keep
hearing you. Went
asking
kind of
people
back.
so that's what I'm asking. How many, yeah, okay, I'll just put my.
So Toby, let me make this suggestion. If there's anyone who is not comfortable
Comments
making
in the chat. Did you hear that? Because
go ahead.
oh, me, Toby?
Yeah,
Oh,
we're hearing
somebody
you a
else.
little bit better now.
Oh, I don't know what's going on with my internet. I was just saying, it's not that much participation and there's not that much people making comments. And I think you heard what I said earlier. There's a reluctancy to speak out, and the reluctancy is that it's not going to help you to speak up, because there's a sense of being punished for saying the truth. Did you hear that?
Yes.
Did you hear that?
Yes.
Oh,
Heard that.
okay. So anyway, so I think that's why you're not getting much response. But I think if you told who is here how many Black businesses get business from Aurora, that would speak volumes.
So let me say this, we're in the process of the study right now, so we don't have any outcomes yet. We don't have any statistical outcomes. We're at simultaneously to us doing this anecdotal portion, we're also collecting, cleaning, and analyzing the data. So it all comes out at the same time. The statistical is not completed yet. So that's not information we have yet.
Oh, I see. Okay, well, I can tell you none. That's the problem. Black businesses do not get business with the city of Aurora. So, your study, I don't know what the results will be. Maybe the African Chamber, or I don't know, whoever else is out there that might have some input with the African American business community. But I know the answer because I'm an African American business. And I've been in Colorado since the early 70s, and it's been the same pattern. Black businesses do not get contracts with the city of Aurora. Did you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so I guess I won't be getting any for sure now.
No, and Toby, I just wanted to share something with you. I've been in the construction and transportation industry for 25 plus years, and I'm probably one of the biggest advocates out here. And I speak up. I believe that if you're getting public funding, you need to speak up. We have seen so many changes with projects with the city and county of Denver and RTD because people spoke up. If we don't speak up, we can't affect change. And if we're worried about whether we're not going to get work, I have never been negatively impacted from speaking up. So I understand your concern and I hear you loud and clear, but from my experience, I have not seen people be negatively impacted for just sharing what their experience is as a small business. And I agree with you, Toby, that City of Aurora is a different market. It's not like what we see with Denver, DIA, CDOT, and RTD. But we need to help this consultant get this data so we can show the City of Aurora there is a serious disparity.
The city of Aurora knows it's not a disparity. It is discrimination. The city of Aurora knows this, but they don't take any action to change the outcome. They're content. They're satisfied with not awarding contracts for, they come up with every excuse under the sun why they cannot award contracts to Black, and I'm not talking women, I'm not speaking Hispanic, and I'm not saying minorities, I'm not talking veterans. You know, there's so many set asides and you know, check the boxes for all of those different areas. I'm talking about African Americans, Black people. There's a 15% population of Black people in the city of Aurora. How many Black businesses are in Aurora is quite, I don't know, but I know they don't get contracts from the city of Aurora. And you let your study show you the results. And if we ever get the data, I don't know, a year or two from now would make it no difference because it's been this way. It is consistently this way. Black businesses do not get contracts from the city of Aurora. If there are some who someone knows about, I like to meet them. I like to speak to them. I like to know how they did it. What made them unique to be successful? Because there are very few, if any, success stories.
So let me ask this question to those who are on this call. Has anyone on this call actually gotten a contract with the city of Aurora and would like to tell us about their experience?
My answer is no.
This is Maya from African Chamber. I spoke with Trinity earlier, and I said a lot of the same things that Adrienne Sanford said about outreach. And Paul Henron and myself initiated this diversity study with the Aurora Human Relations Commission. The city doesn't capture data by race right now. So there's no way to know, like she said, how many Blacks have gotten contracts. I do know that there are some Blacks who have gotten contracts in catering or something. And we have to remember that we're talking about procurement for the city of Aurora and not their federal programs like the highway and housing and different things like that that do have goals. The procurement stuff is like the catering, the janitorial stuff, your supplies. And I think we have to remember the services that they procure and not just say there's no Blacks who's ever gotten a contract, because I know for sure I've seen some when I was a part of the different commissions that have gotten contracts. But it is low, I'm sure, and that's why they're doing a study and trying to get the data by race so we can see that will tell the story. Right now, there's nothing to tell them the story. So
You're right, Maya.
I'm just happy that they did this disparity study after 7 years of requesting it.
You're absolutely right, Maya. You are so right.
Well, maybe one of the reasons they have taken so long to do the study is because they don't want the evidence to present itself. And perhaps the reason they don't do an analysis based on race, because it would show that they discriminate against the Black race. So don't do a study on it to prove it's true. They don't want who self-incriminate ourselves. I mean, we have to be realistic here. There is no reason in this day and time, none whatsoever. I don't want to hear about catering. I don't want to hear about janitorial services, the domestic areas that African Americans have been in from slavery to now. There are engineers, there are computer scientists.
I'm not saying that.
No, I'm
have
not
to
saying
look at
you
the
are.
type of services
I'm speaking. I'm not saying anyone's saying that. I'm saying I know I graduated from Metro State College in the 80s. In the 80s, I've been bidding on contracts here in Aurora, Colorado since then. I'm Black. I have a master's in computer science and MBA in information technology, credits towards my doctoral studies. I have to leave Aurora, Colorado to get business in my rightful field. I go back east where the initiatives are maybe significantly stronger for African-American businesses, but you shouldn't have to leave your home of Aurora to get business because you're Black and Aurora doesn't give contracts to Black businesses. And that
Toby,
is the
may I say something? If you ever get an opportunity to look at the City and County of Denver's disparity study that was done about 3 years ago, that disparity study is broken down by ethnicity, and they let you know which ethnicity is getting more work in Denver. And they also note which ethnicity are the most underutilized. So these disparity studies do capture that data. And as Maya said, being the executive director over the African Chamber, she has pushed the city of Aurora to get this disparity study, and we are here now, which is a good thing. And so they're going to capture the same thing that we have seen with the City and County of Denver's disparity study. It is broken down by ethnicity, and they will let you know which ethnicity is doing better in procuring work, which ones are the most underutilized, and they do make recommendations to the city that is doing the disparity study to improve those things. So I think going forward, Toby, you're probably going to see that the disparity study is going to eventually give you that data you're going to want. And it's probably going to be what we are thinking or assuming, that we're going to see a low count.
Well, I don't want that. I want a contract. I want the same money that the white businesses are getting. Use the money for the disparity contracts to keep some Black businesses in business and give us a contract. It shouldn't take
the disparity study.
It shouldn't take 7 years, number one. Number two, whatever the funds are, it's probably more funds used for the disparity to pay the consultants to do the disparity study than the money that they pay the caterers or the domestics or the janitorial contractors to do the janitorial and catering contracts. It's unacceptable. And I know the numbers from Denver, and they're not not all that good for African Americans in Denver either. I'm very familiar with DIA and RTD and been certified with them all. And, I know those numbers, and I know those numbers, they're not impressive. However, they're better than Aurora. And I'll say it again, because there was a comment made earlier that you don't feel that there's any type of reason for people to feel reluctant to speak up. There is, and the numbers show it. They don't want to be.
Okay, Toby, you dropped out again. So, Toby, we'll pick
Well, I
back up
don't
with
like
you
to.
when you come back on. Is,
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's wrong with my system.
no problem.
Can,
So,
can-
so is this, do we have any other comments here?
Well, I agree with her, the number's lower, but I think it has to go back to what the first ladies asked, if we could have events in person at our organizations. I work with immigrant populations where technology is not a big thing. Some of them don't know how to use Zoom and all these things, and I think that's part of the problem as well with the city of Aurora. There needs to be trainings on how to use BidNet, how to find the system, how to navigate the procurement system, because I think some people just get frustrated with the systems as well. So I really appreciate what the lady said in the beginning, that we should have actual live in-person meetings where we can gather people to come, because we did try to get people to come. We posted on our social media pages and told them and sent out emails and stuff about this hearing. But a lot of people don't know how to use technology. The digital divide is real. And a lot of small business owners are in their 40s and older, and they're not big on using social media. So I think we would have better responses from people to share their experiences if it was in person as well.
Yes, I agree with you, Maya, and that was me who was making that recommendation, and not to wait for a request. And thank goodness Rosie made that request, but to go and ask those organizations if they can come to their next meeting and hold a public meeting. So you're absolutely, yes. Maya, that would be a great opportunity for your organization to have it in person.
I agree. So like the other organization, that would help us, and we probably could provide more feedback.
Right.
But I did get feedback earlier, and a lot of my feedback was around outreach. I don't think the city of Aurora does that, and they need to
You're
do
right.
training, and
They
the
don't.
tools are not user friendly. Like,
No.
I even talked
You're
about the licensing system. I don't think that was very friendly. I'm a nonprofit. He keeps telling me I owe taxes, and I've loaded documents to show I don't owe taxes. And then I can get wiped out from not getting grants. So, because if I owe money to the city of Aurora, they're not going to give me a grant.
A
So-
lot of minority businesses missed out on that grant because their business wasn't registered with the city of Aurora. And I think that requirement should have came in a lot earlier before that grant rolled out, because I was on that grant team. And I
So
talked.
can you just clarify, you're saying that that firms aren't getting grant money? Are you talking about not-for-profits or other firms who aren't getting some sort of grant money because they're not registered with the city? Is that what you're saying, Adrian?
Yes, Aurora, ARRA, that's federal money, and that went to a lot of the cities. As a matter of fact, Denver's rolling out their third one. And this was the first time Aurora rolled it out. And there are quite a bit of firms that didn't have their business registered with the city of Aurora. And unfortunately, by the time they submitted their application, the cutoff to get registered with the city of Aurora was June 1st. And a lot of them didn't have time to do that. So there were quite a bit that missed out. And if that was a requirement, I think that should have been out there earlier. So that, or they should have extended that time for those companies to get registered with the city of Aurora, get their companies registered with the city of Aurora. And I spoke to 3 African-American companies that missed out on that, the clients who missed out on that. So Maya's correct. Maya's correct on that.
Like to hear from some of there are a few people who are on the call who we haven't heard from. Would you like to unmute and at least introduce yourself? Tell us your name and your company name. So why don't I ask Bryn Fillinger? Would you like to just tell us, okay, I see your name, but tell us the company you're with and just introduce yourself?
There we go. I was muted. Yeah, I'm Bryn Fillinger. I'm manager of purchasing services at the city of Aurora.
Okay. Thank you, Bryn, for
Uh-huh.
joining. Kristen Chuiwi.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Kristen Chui. I am also with the City of Aurora Purchasing Department.
Sarah, I'm not sure how to pronounce your last name, Cheech.
Yes, my name is Sarah Valencich. I'm actually the officer for the Office of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, who is co-sponsoring this disparity study.
Okay, Natalia Campbell.
Same, I also work with the city.
Paul Henrian.
Hi, I'm Paul Henrian. I'm the second vice president of the Aurora NAACP and also an advisor to the Human Relations Commission. Maya talked about our efforts many years ago when we were promised data and it didn't come. I think over the years, my impression, and I'm not a business owner, but my impression is that there's just a very strong reputation on the part of the city as not only not being interested in having minority business, but in not putting out any effort towards it, but in actually putting up blocks. I know that the NAACP requested some data about it, and we got sent to a website with data that wasn't responsive to what we'd asked for with our open records request. We decided not to litigate it with them. It just didn't seem like it was going anywhere. So I think, and as I had said at the start, I think if we had some good news to give people, they would be more interested in coming out and giving you the information that you're looking for. We'll all try and redouble our efforts to make that happen. And I know the NAACP has given some grants out to some companies, and we'll see if we can't get some of those companies to talk about what the situation is. But it does remain one that just doesn't seem like it's likely to be too fruitful for people. And so I think they're reluctant to spend the time to come forward, and it's disappointing. And I hope your study brings us in a different direction, although we've been talking about the study, as Maya said, for about 10 years, and it's somewhat disappointing to me. I mean, it's great that the study came up, but the fact that it came up in the middle of a racial crisis in the city with a consent decree, fired police chief for spending too much time on the community relations, and a number of other things that are going on, numerous studies. The fact that the disparity study came right in the middle of that, I think, was a little disappointing, even though it's great to have. And so we're looking very much forward to you doing it, and we'll all see if we can't find good ways to help you.
Thank you. Okay, and then I think Les Townsend. Do you want to, Les Townsend, do you want to unmute and introduce yourself? Okay. Okay. Any other comments that we can take? Again, there is another meeting tomorrow. Trinity, what time is the meeting tomorrow?
It's at 12. I'll also put it in the chat.
Okay. Do you know how many we have registered? We had a number registered for tonight who did not actually wind up coming. And I think we have a smaller number actually registered tomorrow. We'll send out another reminder in the morning. So if you do know of people who you think would be able to give us some comment, and again, this isn't the only way to comment. We will be having focus groups in November. The survey will be going out, so it'd be great. We have 22 registered for tomorrow. The survey will be going out. We would really love, even though you've been on this one, please fill out that, because it asks some very specific questions that help us to quantify. So these help us to, again, color, what we find in the study, but the survey helps us to quantify some of that, which is really important as well. So please make sure when the survey comes out, you all will be getting it because you're on our list, but please share it around as well. We have more comments to add.
This is Toby. Can you hear me?
Yes.
The gentleman with the end of, well, I think he was speaking from the end of ACP said, maybe there's not such a good outcome because there's no good news. Well, I'd be happy to be the good news. If there's all these people on this site tonight from the city of Aurora, you can award a contract to me, a Black business, and I can be your positive poster child for the progress the city of Aurora is making. Surely someone with a master's degree from a bachelor's from your own University of Metropolitan State University, there must be some sort of work that I qualify for with the city of Aurora. Oh, you can sole source it to me. I can be your good news for the next opportunity. I'd be happy to get that contract. Toby Cooper.
Okay, and with that, I think Rosie, Rosie, you put your information in there so Trinity can reach back out to you?
I did, yes.
All right, if there are no other comments, we will end here. And again, please let others know to please come tomorrow. And if you're asked to participate in a focus group, I don't know, the focus groups are randomly selected, but if you're asked to participate in a focus group, we'd love to see you there as well. And we'll be doing more outreach to organizations, trying to get as many people as we can to participate in this process.
And I will email you a list with organizations that I recommend you reach out and ask if you can come to their next membership meeting and do this public hearing.
Great. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Tonight, again, last chance. Anybody have anything else they want to add before we close? All right, if all hearts and minds are clear, then we will be completing this study in the late spring, I believe. And then you'll see hopefully see some results right after that. Thank you so much and have a great night. Be safe and well.
Thank you for your presentation. It was one of the best I've ever seen.
Great. Thank you. All right. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.